Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jake from College Football Red Zone coming at you with another iteration of the First Look series where I take a holistic look at all 138 FBS programs and as well as give you my record predictions as of how things stand in this post-spring phase of the offseason as well. So, hopefully, you guys have been really enjoying this series as we now officially get into the top 45. So, very excited to get into things with the NC State Wolfpack coming out of the ACC as well, with one of the longest tenured head coaches as well. So, looking forward to talk some NC State football with you guys here today. And if you are excited as I am, make sure you do a couple of things for me real fast. Make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, as well as hit that subscribe button as well, if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And so, let's go ahead and jump into this conversation about the NC State Wolfpack here in this go around. Like I mentioned, one of the most tenured head coaches in this conference, Dave Doeren, entering his 14th year with the NC State Wolfpack. And it really has been a model of consistency since he's taken that NC State Wolfpack job. Hasn't gotten him to the mountaintop in the ACC. Doesn't have any ACC titles to his name or anything like that. But, he's been an above average coach in his time here with a 95 and 70 overall record. So, averaging 7 to 8 wins every single year that he's been on campus, which, you're not calling yourself an elite program, but it's a solid program here, like in this NC State football entity, right? But it just felt like, it's very unfortunate that we have this NIL and transfer portal era because traditionally, you see the amount of talent that was on this team last year, coupled with the really talented quarterback in CJ Bailey. And under normal circumstances, you're looking at that and you're thinking to yourself, hey, this is going to be a really special football season coming up here in 2026. But unfortunately, they also just got crushed in the transfer portal this year, unfortunately. I mean, they lost several key players in the transfer portal. Not to mention they lose multiple players to the NFL as well. I mean, for it's one thing to lose three really good NFL guys in just a Joey who is playing the tight end for you, or a Devin Marshall who's a lockdown corner, or even a Brandon Cleveland who was really locking things down as a really good interior defensive lineman for you. So those losses suck to begin with, but then, man, they also lose like a Hollywood Smuffers as well. They lose him to Texas. Terrell Anderson ends up going to USC as well. Really high. Oh, and they lose another really good wide receiver, Noah Rogers. Originally came in from Ohio State, spent a year in NC State, and now he's at Alabama. So that's his third stop for him. And while you bring in like a Victor Snow, like in the wide receiver room, and I think Victor Snow could be pretty good in this offense, given that in spite of inconsistent quarterback play with the Buffalo Bulls last year, he still had over 900 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. Like CJ Bailey is a massive upgrade compared to what they had in Buffalo, even relative to the level of competition in the MAC. Man, like Victor Smith, Snow, and some of these other guys that are still here are going to have some work to do to replace like a Terrell Anderson and a Noah Rogers as well, right? But then you also have to take a look at this offensive line. I mean, they lose Jacarius Peak to South Carolina. I mean, that's a really important offensive lineman as well. And so losing that kind of player, I mean, that's just a really tough situation as well. So hate to see that for this NC State offensive line. And so what it really barrels down to is basically to the point where you're going to have to hope that CJ Bailey takes a breakout kind of season. Otherwise, it could get kind of ugly kind of fast. One exception being like the linebacker room. I do think NC State might still have one of the best linebacking rooms in this conference. Caden for him is a huge reason for that. First team All ACC player, like coming on back. And it's not like they didn't bring in like anybody of note, like in the transfer portal either. I mean, they brought in Harvey Dyson from Tulane, who had 8 sacks as an interior defensive lineman last season. King Mack, incredible name by the way, comes in from Penn State as well. 58 tackles and an interception for the Nittany Lions last fall. So it's not like they didn't bring anybody and that Dave Doeren was sitting back and was refusing to do anything of note. It's just in comparison to what they lost in the transfer portal. I mean, the additions that they brought in was very subpar, and so it makes you wonder, if you me talking so negatively about this roster going into this season, because it seems like at several key positions they're taking a dip in terms of talent level. you know, you're probably asking why I still have them in the top 50. And two big reasons for that is that, Dave Dorian has been doing this for a really long time. And so I have trust in that coaching staff and that philosophy. So this is somewhat get me giving Dave Dorian more benefit of the doubt. Because he's been doing it very, very well for a very long time. And it's also believing that CJ Bailey genuinely could be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, at least a top five quarterback. So CJ Bailey is still going to have this team being really competitive, even though you look at this roster and it's not the same caliber of roster as last season. But not only do you have a really good head coach in Dave Dorian, you have a really good quarterback in CJ Bailey. At the same time, what NC State was also blessed with this year is that they had this is according to my metrics, like with the power rating model. So my metrics are tracking that NC State actually has the easiest schedule in the ACC. That's what the model was telling us. So a very navigable schedule for this upcoming fall, which kind of leads to my next point here. Let's go ahead and see what that schedule is going to be all about this fall. So they open things up. They have to go to Brazil to play Virginia. It does actually count as a conference game this time around, but you got to go to Brazil to play that game. It's going to be a neutral site. And I'll say this about NC State too. I look at this NC State football team, and even though they might be an underdog against Virginia this upcoming season, what I will say as well about this Virginia football team is that I don't trust that coaching staff the same way that I trust Dave Dorian. So even though they might come in as an underdog here, I actually think that NC State can pull this minor upset off. So I think they can start the season off 1-0, and it parlays them to, I think, a 3-1 start there. Beat Richmond, you beat Appalachian State. I think Vanderbilt on the road. I think Vanderbilt is still going to have some teeth, even though two of their biggest stars left for the NFL. But then what's really important here is you get into what you got going on with the rest of the ACC schedule. And it's a very nice running schedule here, right? I mean, if you take a look at some of the road games that they are going to go ahead and do, I mean, you do have Florida State on the road, but I mean, how motivated is Florida State going to be? And that's going to be really dependent on how Mike Norvell's season is going up at that point. North Carolina on the road, same thing about Bill Belichick. And then Stanford on the road, but Stanford has a very brand new coaching staff. Again, I think Dave Dorian is going to have a coaching advantage in that particular matchup as well. And then on top of that, to go with it here as well, you're looking at the rest of their schedule. I mean, you do get Louisville at home. Louisville, very good team, but at least you get them in your building. Wake Forest at home as well. Wake Forest certainly isn't invincible yet under Jake Dickert at this time. Cal is going to have to make a cross-country road trip to go play you. Duke, I really like Manny Diaz, but you're definitely going to have a quarterback advantage compared to Walker Eget. Syracuse, I don't have a ton of faith in Fran Brown either, so it sets up really nicely, even though, again, it's not the same caliber of team. Like, they could still knock on the door here, like, to win, like, 9 or 10 games, depending on how things turned out, like, in turn of bowl season as well. And there's a upside here. Whereas, like, besides maybe the Vanderbilt game, like, they could be winning almost all of their games on their schedule. All of them are winnable games. So, the benefit of having a really good quarterback, the benefit of having a really good head coach as well, and having, frankly, the easiest schedule in the ACC, even though it's not the same type of team as last year, I still think that they're going to have a really solid record that we've been accustomed to under Dave Dorian And I think 8-4 is realistic here. Looking at the schedule at the end of the day, I love the stretch. Like Stanford doesn't really scare me at this time. Like it's a losable game, don't get me wrong, but Tyler Pritchard still has to prove something before I have faith in him in any ACC game. You don't. Other than that, though, you don't have to make any cross country road trips, so that sets up nicely as well. So very manageable schedule here. But I am curious to hear your thoughts about this NC State football team. Am I a little too high on these guys or am I a little too low? Definitely let me know down in the comments section. And like I said, I do have my 45th ranked team with an 8-4 projection as of this time. But yeah, with that being said, if you've been enjoying this series, I need you to do a couple of things for me real fast. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new. But for now, this is Jake of College Football Red Zone signing off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.